Headlines this morning, and we start of course with the Business Day, and their lead story this morning is around the Democratic Alliance. DA rallies around embattled Maimane. Opposition party's federal executive decides to take collective responsibility for shedding votes, and this of course are in the aftermath of the election. And Musi Maimane saying, as leader of the DA, I take full responsibility for the outcome of the election. But of course, the executive rallying around him and saying they will accept collective responsibility for this. And Maimane went on to say that honestly, in good conscience, he gave it his all. And then also on that front page, medical aids once again, Netcare this time, the hospital group saying that they're being squeezed by prescriptive medical aids. And the largest listed hospital group in South Africa, Netcare, was hit on Monday by the biggest one-day drop in its share price in almost 2 months after it said that profits will be squeezed by increasingly prescriptive medical aids. And on the bottom there, we have Vodacom seeing more pain from data pricing pressure, and they've reported their first drop in annual net profit in 4 years on Monday, and they are preparing investors, as it were, for more trouble in the home market here in South Africa as mobile operators face pressure to reduce data prices. That's the Business Day.
All right, let's move now on to the Sowetan, and a glorious photograph on the front page of the Sowetan, that of the three-way race for top PSL honours. The story on the back page there, but it really is quite a powerful photograph there on the front page of the Sowetan, and then also focusing in on the DA and its woes, or its leaders' woes, we should say. This is quite a cheeky headline, actually. No Harvard for Musi as yet. I mean, you know the pun on the Harvard. It was it Lindiwe Mazibuko? After, apparently having a fallout with then leader Helen Zille going off to Harvard to study. But anyway, that was, I suppose, what they were aiming at here. So it says DA leaders say they take collective responsibility for the party's push showing at the polls, and some members blame Helen Zille for alienating black voters. So they are looking to Helen Zille and perhaps her campaign that she runs on Twitter, and she sometimes does run amok on Twitter with some of the things she says, which I think bodes very badly for the party.
So who are they going to blame for the white voters who left?
No idea. No idea. The blame game is on. So, foreign students robbed in MAMS, and that was a story, that is a devastating story, really. Gender parity, a headache for the ANC. Well, it certainly is if you look at the list of premiers, and the premier candidates are very dominated by males, but then they're saying that, you've got to divide that up by having more members and all of that stuff, but we'll look at that a little bit more closely. And then Black Widow speaks. So that's the front page of the Sowetan.
And moving on now to the Citizen, their lead story this morning, lawyer court strike looms. The wheels of justice could grind to a halt countrywide if a brewing national strike at Legal Aid SA is not averted and lawyers' grievances over pay and crippling workloads are not addressed. And we know how people complain about, court rolls and the inevitable delays all the time. And you can imagine that we can't afford any other sort of disruption in that regard. But it seems a strike could be looming. And then Caster Semenya, the fight goes on. We heard that in the sports news with Valen. Also, Vodacom cuts dividend by 2.5%. That was the lead story, or rather one of the front page stories for Business Day as well. And powerful hero, close aide to Pope Francis, has drawn the ire of Italy's anti-immigrant Interior Minister Matteo Salvini by climbing down a manhole to restore electricity to hundreds of homeless people living in an occupied building. So go figure that. And of course, that picture on the front page, taking his best shot, amputee Raylan De Vere of South Africa plays out of a bunker during round 1 of the Canon South African Disabled Golf Open at the Magalies Park Golf Course in Hartbeespoort yesterday. More than 80 competitors from across the world are competing there.
Okay, and then the final newspaper to look at this morning is The Star, and on The Star they have a big picture there with a leading line saying appealing. And I suppose it can be taken in two ways. They're appealing to contestants to enter Miss South Africa, or the ladies are rather appealing, which they are. For former Miss South Africa winners and the current Miss SA, Tamarin Green, have launched the Miss SA 2019 pageant, which will take place on Women's Day on the 9th of August. Gosh, and they say it's set to transform the life of the person who takes the crown. So that's what's happening there about Miss South Africa. Then, housing scam exposed. Businesswoman allegedly takes flight after using official data to rip off RDP home seekers. So you can read up about that. Then Kusatu repeating Cleanup Act pleas. ANC alliance partner Kusatu yesterday called on the party to stop infighting and corruption in government. The party's Secretary General Ace Magashule had to reassure the nation that he had not fallen out with President Cyril Ramaphosa. And then finally, on the side, Caster Semenya, her fight gaining momentum, this against the IAAF, with the government set to approach the UN and Athletics SA set to appeal the ruling by the Court of Arbitration for sport on the controversial female eligibility rules. So, yeah, that's just a quick glimpse at the front pages of our newspapers for this morning.
Indeed, and that's where we wrap news. We'll bring you a full news bulletin at the top of the hour. But for now, let's bring you up to date with the latest in weather conditions. Sihle is standing by with those.